Good morning, sir.
How are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. It's about time we got this Argentina wrap up done.
Yep. Are we 1 month behind or 2 months behind now?
We're about exactly a month behind from when we got back.
Yep. So today is June 3rd, and let's see, we both got back right around the beginning of April. Is that right?
We're 2 months behind. Yeah,
For
we're
us,
exactly 2 months behind.
that's like extra credit.
Yeah, stupid.
Yeah, it's all good. We're busy. This is the busiest time of year for us. We've got all the applications coming out right now, trying to get hunts filled that are still available this year, getting stuff booked for next year. Right after I got back from Argentina, they kind of went on a little bit of a surprise cancellation trip that we'll talk about later on. But for today, we're going to talk about Argentina. And Cory and I, we both just got back here a little bit ago. We're both down there hosting clients with one of our outfitters down there for red stag, water buffalo, and blackbuck. I was there a little bit more than a week before Cory. Cory was there a little bit more than a week after me and had Tara with him. I went down solo. Each one of our trips was a little bit different and a little bit different dynamic to start out with. I did kind of a cross country tour and saw a couple of the new ranches that we're working with our premier partner down there. And then Cory, you had a group that you were hosting. We both had an amazing experience.
Yeah, that was my first time to South America, and it was very cool.
Was it
I
really
really enjoyed it.
good? How was the language barrier for you?
Wasn't actually a problem, really. We had a guy with us who is Mexican heritage, and he told us he didn't know Spanish. But then we got down there and he saved our butt. He totally knew enough to get us by. It was super handy having him. However, I think we would have been just fine if he hadn't been along with a little bit of Spanglish. Everybody was super friendly. Buenos Aires probably would have been the hardest part, just ordering food and stuff. But other than that, pretty easy. Even that, Tara and I went down to a few restaurants and had lunch and ordered a smoothie at one. That was the hardest experience we had, was ordering a smoothie, but we got it done and it was kind of fun. So as long as you're as long as you're friendly, other people will be friendly.
Yeah. I was super friendly when I was there when I spent time in Buenos Aires. And it's just kind of, you just have to be humble, and people recognize pretty quick that you don't speak English. So, or speak Spanish. And they try to speak a little bit of English to help you out. The thing that I still
Yeah,
haven't figured out is how to order a medium rare steak. Like, I have yet to figure out what the translation is for medium rare.
that's true. I hadn't thought about it, but you're right. Yeah, they didn't know what you're talking.
To like juicy, not like medium rare. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's funny. That's an important thing because medium rare is like the only way to go.
They tend to favor on the rare side in Argentina. Absolutely. So diving into that, Cory, you were hosting a group of your clients for red stag, blackbuck, and buffalo down in La Pampa with our premier partner there. And I also had a group that I was hosting, but I flew in almost a full week early to go tour some other ranches. And so, a little bit different travel dynamic there. I went solo. You and Tara went and hosted, which is awesome. I hope that Tori and I can do that someday too. Little backstory. Argentina, as you know, if you've listened to the last podcast, is one of the premier destinations for free range trophy red stag. And when we say free range, that means non high fence, born in the wild, not born in a facility, released in the wild. Like, that is true free range. Argentina clearly demonstrates the difference between free range, fair chase, and high fence or estate very, very clearly. I mean, of all the countries that you can hunt red stag, Argentina is like one of the most defined differences, because there is such a difference between a true free range stag or a fair chase or a high fence estate stag. Completely different experience. And this ranch in La Pampa that we work with is true free range, and it is very difficult hunting. It's very high success, high opportunity, but a trophy free range stag is a true trophy in this area. So it's super fun hunt, but it'll test you. It's very
Yeah,
demanding,
for
not
sure.
so much physically, but just mentally having to hunt them. So red stag is the flagship hunt down there. There's other hunts that you can add on, the water buffalo, the blackbuck. Almost all of our hunters end up adding a blackbuck on the red stag hunt. And then occasionally guys will add a buffalo or a fallow or maybe a second stag or a high fence stag or something of that sort. But touching on the buffalo, actually, the water buffalo, along with the axis deer in Argentina, is the primary reason that I wanted to go down there early and tour a new ranch. We actually have a ranch that our partner outfits and has for many years in northern Argentina in a place called Corrientes. And he's been telling me about this ranch for years, about how incredible it is. And he's told me over and over again, he's like, Kyle, I can promise you, almost guaranteed, in 4 days, I will get your hunters a free range gold medal water buffalo and axis deer. He's like, this ranch is unbelievable. I promise you, you need to come see it for yourself. I will show you. And so 2 years ago, after I hosted the group last time, I told him that next time I come up, I'll plan a few extra days on the front end. We'll go see your Corrientes ranch. So that's what I did. So came in a few days early. We drove from Buenos Aires to the Corrientes ranch. It's about a 6-hour drive. You can also charter a plane from Buenos Aires to Corrientes, but obviously that's more expensive. And this is kind of just informal, him and I going to tour the ranch, not like hosting or guiding or anything like that. So we just drove up, which I'm so happy we did because we also drove through the province of Entre Rios. And much like it sounds, Entre Rios, between two rivers, it's the delta country between two major rivers in the northern part of Argentina, is also the flyway of the Argentina dove. I don't even know how many doves we saw on this drive. When we'd stop for fuel driving through Entre Rios, we'd have to go pick the doves out of the grill of the truck. It was unbelievable. Yeah, we're talking millions, millions, and millions of doves. And almost just standing in one spot, the sky was just littered, like blackened in some areas with doves. It was unbelievable. I mean,
Wow,
it's
that's
like the stories you hear of like the late 1800s carrier pigeon on the east coast of the US, like just blackened skies and just
that's
unbelievable. So
awesome.
that was so cool. And he actually has a ranch in Entre Rios as well for fishing and dove shooting. And so that's another offering that
Is
we
that
offer.
golden Dorado fishing? Is
Yes.
that what that is? Okay.
hmm Yeah, he has the golden dorado. He also has the waterfowl. I think it's the perdiz, if I'm pronouncing that right.
No, that's not waterfowl. That's like a pheasant.
All right. Well, he has waterfowl and upland game. I'm a big game guy, so get back
Yeah.
to me on that
Yeah,
if you want
perdiz. I actually saw a perdiz. They're like a little bit smaller than a hen pheasant, have a mohawk, and the same
to.
color as a hen pheasant.
I gotcha.
So,
Well, they have waterfowl, they have upland game, fishing, as well as the dove in Entre Rios. But then up in Corrientes is kind of, it's not quite like a river delta, like straight marsh, but there is quite a bit of marsh in this area. Very flat, lots of dense cover, but still open pasture land. But not like down in La Pampa, where La Pampa is like West Texas hill country kind of terrain. It's more what I envision Africa being like. And the Corrientes Ranch, it was so interesting. There's a lot of marshes and ponds and lakes and stuff like that. They had capybara, axis deer, a lot of different kinds of waterfowl, birds. They even have fishing there too. The water buffalo. They did have some black buck around, but not very many. It was just a couple small herds, and they weren't very big either. So the main feature there is the axis deer and the water buffalo. Um, I was absolutely blown away. And in 2 days, I think we saw close to 300 water buffalo, 15 to 20 gold medal bulls, free range. We saw just a couple mornings and evenings that we went out for axis because the axis like to stick to the dark cover. They're only out at first and last light,
they're
and they're
tough to hunt.
they're like vampires. They are out in the full moon all night, every night. Like if you go out there in the middle of the night, because we did too, one night when we went out and sat in a pasture, we just sat there in the middle of the pasture, real still, like shoulder to shoulder. And we probably had 100 axis deer in the pasture with us, just feeding.
Wow.
And and it was a
Uh,
full moon. We could see them too. We could see them very clearly. And as soon as the sun goes down, they completely let their guards down. So it was so cool seeing that many axis deer.
were they
And we saw,
ruddy?
I don't think so. But the thing with axis, they can rut all year. So, like
That's
in
true.
one herd of axis, you could have axis that are rutting, not rutting. You could have one in full velvet, one in hardhorn, any time of year
They're so
almost.
weird.
They are weird. So they're an interesting animal and they're absolutely gorgeous. We saw between both days, maybe 100 plus axis, a handful of really good bucks that I would have shot, no question. And just gorgeous, gorgeous animals. It honestly, it makes me want to go back just for a buffalo and an axis hunt someday, but I need more time. It needs to be like, hey, this is Kyle's personal trip, not just go rip down there for a day and see it, you know. But super cool place. Now, our partner down there, he's always told me that the accommodations at the Corrientes Ranch, they're not quite as lavish as the Pampa Ranch. You should know that. And it's very, very nice. I would still call it 5 star, but it's very traditional Argentinian. And so it's more of like, kind of reminds me of like a family compound, you know, with like a center courtyard. And then like all the guest rooms are circled around the courtyard. There's a smaller kitchen. Yeah, it's very like traditional Argentinian. Like this property has been handed down 3 or 4 generations, and it's just an absolutely beautiful ranch, beautiful lodge, but very traditional Argentinian. That's the best way I can describe it. And we have pictures on our website and in the brochure too. So if anyone's interested, reach out to me and I can send all that to you. But unbelievable. Everything that he said it was is true for sure. Free range, gold medal buffalo, and axis deer. Absolutely incredible. This is good to touch on. We went down there in March and April for stag, right? That's during the roar. You can definitely go to Corrientes during the March April timeframe, but that's the late summer, early fall. So, being as that this is marsh country and Corrientes, I really can't recommend it during that time. And he actually prefers to take his hunters in May and June, even into the beginning of July, because of mosquitoes. So, I looked like a leper at the end of 2 days down there because I was wearing like a thin like sun hoodie because it's like 80 degrees outside during the day. And then I had like little gloves on, whatever. And I kid you not, I had hundreds of mosquito bites all over my back, shoulders, elbows, anywhere the fabric was pulled tight. Especially when
That's
we're sitting there shoulder to shoulder in the middle of the night watching this deer. We're just completely covered up in mosquitoes. It was awful, like worst mosquitoes I've ever been around. They just poke right through your clothes, and it was so uncomfortable. And then my bino harness across my back, there was like a big X where the harness was. So like, yeah, so it was like big giant red welts of hundreds of mosquito bites all over my back with like an X through the center where my bino harness was. It was so
awesome.
bad. The guides down there wear like thick canvas clothes, even when it's like 80, 90, 100 degrees out. And I was just like, that looks awful. And they kept saying, no, you can't get through this. And I'm like, well,
Makes
okay, I get it.
sense. How hot does it get during hunting season?
It gets a lot harder and hotter in northern Argentina than it does down in La Pampa in southern Argentina. Like when it was 70 to 80 down in La Pampa, it was pushing 100 degrees Fahrenheit in Corrientes. During that May June time period, it's cooler, like probably like 40s to 60s more, and the bugs aren't as bad. But yeah, so timing wise, May to June on that one for sure, which is great because then
And there's no red deer there, right?
very rare to see a red deer up there, but there are some around.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm really excited about that place. I think that one, because it is more traditional style lodging and because buffalo are just so huge and there's so much work to get out too. I think 4 to 6 hunters is perfect on that one. If somebody said, hey, I have a group of people, we all want to go buffalo hunting, what's the number? Well, we could host up to 10, but we're going to have to do like an extended custom schedule, anything like that. But 4 to 6 hunters, 4 or 5 days, that is the perfect trip. That would also be a great number to split the charter going from Buenos Aires to Corrientes because they actually have a private airstrip right there at the ranch too that you can fly into, which is pretty cool.
Very
So
cool. That's awesome.
incredible place. Definitely one of the top rated buffalo ranches in Argentina, no question. And he actually He showed me some of the axis deer that they had taken there in years past. They have a couple axis deer that are just European mounts, like in there's like a, call it like a cigar room or something like that on the ranch where you just go sit in and have cocktails and have a cigar at the end of the night. There's a bunch of European mounts everywhere in there. And there's a couple of axis deer in there that they told me if they entered would be the South American records. So they have incredible axis deer there.
I would love to kill a big axis deer. They are so awesome.
They are pretty cool. And they're a challenge. They will challenge you. I'll also, due to that, a little note on that one. Down at the La Pampa Ranch, since it's set up more to host and accommodate large groups, we take more hunters there than we will in Corrientes. Corrientes is more of like small group. They don't have the rifle rental option there, so bring your own rifle there. Shorter, shorter travel from Buenos Aires. You can drive or fly. The charter flight is the advantageous option, with interest of time, logistics, everything. So a few key differences there. Also, you know, a free range red stag hunt is usually around $7,000-8,000. A buffalo hunt's going to be, for a gold medal, around 10 to 11,000. For a combo with access, around 13-12,000, somewhere in there. So, you know, they both hit different budget points, completely different style of hunt, different terrain, everything, slightly different logistics, but both absolutely world class. But then after we left the Corrientes Ranch, from there we actually drove down to La Pampa. We normally charter all of our clients down from Buenos Aires down to the ranch of La Pampa. And because it was just the outfitter and myself doing kind of a cross country tour, we just drove. It was a long drive. It was like 12, 14 hours from the northern end of the country to the
I
southern
bet that
end,
was
but
cool though, to see
I loved it.
the whole.
But I loved it. It was really interesting. I mean, just seeing all the small towns, stuff like that. And it's also humbling too, because you drive all the way across the country and it really doesn't look that much different to me than driving from, like, call it like Midwest down to South Central Texas. It didn't look that much different to me. You know, you go through a lot of small towns, there's agriculture, it's that late fall time when they're getting ready to harvest. I mean, it really didn't look that much different to me. But they don't have like major interstates going from northern to southern Argentina. They're like smaller highways, basically. So instead of like 4 or 6 lane interstate, it's like 2 or 4 lane highway. A little bit more rural, what have you, but very beautiful, very safe too. I should point that out about traveling across to Argentina. There's people that even just rent their own vehicle and do that drive in country. It's extremely safe. The crime rates are lower there than pretty much any major city in the United States, believe it or not. So they have very strict laws there on crime, especially drug and weapon related. So I just learned a lot about the country sitting in the passenger seat with the outfitter for a whole day driving. I loved that. So, and then arriving down to La Pampa, the big week where I had clients flying in and I was going to host and help guide clients for the week. That was awesome. I had a group of 12 hunters. Actually, we completely maxed out the lodge. Had a group of 12 hunters that it's a really good group of hunters that they've hunted with me multiple times before, between Colorado elk and deer, Alaska caribou, a lot of big trips, big group trips. They've become good friends of mine at this point. And so I had them down to Argentina. They were all hunting free range red stag. Of the 12, by the end of the week, I think we went a total of 9 out of 12 on successful kills, 100% opportunity. And then we killed 6 blackbuck and a fallow deer. We had a couple guys go for buffalo at the very end of the trip, but it was just like a quick 2 hour kind of still hunt through a section kind of thing to try to pick up a certain buffalo we were after. By the end of the week, we had eyes on some pretty big stag in certain spots. And so, unfortunately, some of those spots were also where there was big buffalo, and we just didn't want to go bugger a big stag looking for a big buffalo since it was kind of secondary. All in all, it was an amazing week. We had a ton of fun and big dinners, a lot of camaraderie, a lot of successful hunting going on. Also, kind of the highlight of the week. The very last morning, the last day, one of our hunters shot the biggest free range stag ever killed on that ranch. It went with 10 to 14 inches of antler broken off. It went a little over 320 free range. And it was an 8x8. Yeah, super cool.
That's
Super
cool.
cool. Another cool part of the story too. So the guys that I was with, they all they have such a great sense of humor. One of the things they did early in the week, they all took $100 bill and wrote their name on it, threw it in a hat, and then handed it to me and said, "The guide that gets the biggest stag of the week gets this. They get the pot, right?" And of course, you normally tip your guide too, anyways, right? But it's kind of like an extra bonus, kind of guys being guys type thing. And it just so happens the
Fun.
youngest,
That's cool.
it was super cool because the youngest guide and the newest guy, the youngest, newest guide took the youngest hunter and put him on the biggest stag. And that young man had just gotten married, had his first baby. I mean, so like, a
They made
little extra stack of
$1,200
money.
bonus.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that stack of
Yeah,
cash
that's
made
awesome. Very
it,
cool.
it, it meant a lot more to him than anyone else. And so that all just happened the way it was supposed to. But it was such a cool week for so many reasons. Good people, fantastic hunting, got a lot of great stags. The guys got to experience blackbuck that wanted to experience blackbuck. The roar was really, really good the second half of the week. It was a little slow towards the beginning, but we still got stags down in the beginning. We did still hunting, we did calling. A few of the guys even sat water late at night where you sit water in the moonlight. It's still almost full moon. We're coming off a full moon that week too. And so we got to experience a little bit of everything. Oh, and two of our guys shot giant boars too. Yeah, like giant boars.
Didn't know
Like it's
that.
like 3-4 inch tusks. Yeah. Because that's included in those packages too, where these free range packages are 7 days, room and board, meals, accommodation, all guiding, transportation, everything. Largest free range stag you can find, one European boar, and then you can add on from there on trophy fee, additional things. That's like the best value package that we offer there at the La Pampa Ranch. So we just had an absolute ball. So yeah, that's where we landed. To recap, I did a cross country tour. I saw Corrientes, Entre Rios, the new ranches, understood the travel logistics, spent a lot of time with the outfitter that we've been working with for many years, hosted clients at the lodge for a full week. I actually personally guided one of my hunters. That was a lot of fun. I truly enjoyed that. That keeps you really busy because it's those stagger a lot of work and early mornings, late night, obviously great breakfasts, great dinners and naps in the middle of the day to break it up. But, on the hosting and guiding side, it was a lot of work but it was extremely rewarding.
When you
I
guide
love
a
it.
hunter, you realize that how that those guides earn their tip, don't they?
Oh yeah, man. And
When you see the behind the scenes.
it's a lot of work. It really is. And they do a fantastic job. They're very organized. They all have a routine, a structure, a program. I mean, there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes to make it all come together. And it was humbling to see that. And I'm glad I got to be a part of that experience and share time with the guides too, to get to know the guides better too. And then as of right now, planning on going back and doing it again in 2027. So this is going to be an every other year tradition. We're getting it all lined out for the third year in a row, third every other year in a row. 2027, we're looking at grabbing another week at the lodge. And I've got some invites out right now, but if anyone's interested in that, reach out. But then that's kind of the end of my side of the story. And it over to you.
All right. Well, our group was 11 hunters. 9 of them were OI hunters, and then the outfitter had booked 2 other guys who were father son, and Tara went with me. We landed in Buenos Aires together. Just my group did. We spent 2 days there. We went to the steakhouse. We went on the tour. We walked around the city. I'd be rehashing what you already said, but very safe, very fun. I suggest spending a few days in Buenos Aires. I also suggest taking your wife if she likes to hunt. Super place to take your wife, your girlfriend, or your kids. Super, super amazing vacation. I'm so glad I took Tara. She wasn't sure she wanted to go, and I'm glad she went. We flew all together with the charter into La Pampa. They picked us up there. That was great. It's 2 hours, I think, 2.5 hours. Pickups were there, picked us up, drove us down to the ranch. Off the bat, they get you hunting. So we took all of our gear, put it away, and went out. We heard a little bit of roaring that day, that evening. Nothing really. Nobody got an opportunity, I don't think. Came back, had dinner. They eat dinner super late. Like we ate dinner at midnight 3 or 4 times, but that's Argentina. That's how they do it. Next morning, the roar was awesome. Everybody pretty much had opportunities, worked stags. So that was cool. It was a super fun morning. Tara passed up a smaller stag. She was hunting, not me. Um, then that night, the weather just got cold. And we're all excited sitting there getting ready for dinner. We're excited. Okay, the rut is going to be awesome. It's going to be so good tomorrow. And surprisingly, just almost turned off. We'd hear a few roars early in the morning, and that was kind of it for most of the rest of the hunt. We it was really tough hunting. It was tough. By the end of the stag hunting, there were 9 stag hunters of the 11 hunters. We had killed or wounded 5. We had one guy wound one, and we never found it. So we killed 4, wounded 1. 2 of those, I have to say, were in the high fence towards the end of the hunt. We had 2 hunters who were not serious free range hunters. They were there for a good time. And they went in the high fence and shot monsters, but they had had opportunities before. It was tough hunting. I think everybody except for maybe Sam had an opportunity. So either 100% opportunity or 8 out of 9. Tara didn't get one, but she passed up the one on the first day, and everybody else either passed or got one. We had 4 guys shoot monster buffalo. That was fun. I went along on one of them, my buddy Mark. He shot a monster, and that was a fun experience. Tara and I saw lots of pigs, but they were all groups of sows, but we saw a ton of pigs. Sam and Brandon went out, I think 4 or 5 nights, and they never saw a big boar, so they didn't get one, but they sat in the blinds 4 or 5 nights. But they were partying and loud, they weren't hunting too seriously. So I bet they made a lot of noise in the blind. It was a good group. Everybody had a ton of fun. It was frustrating hunting, stag hunting. It was because it was so quiet. And once you've been there, you understand that if they're not roaring, you're walking through pretty flat, pretty thick country, and you've got to see it before it sees you. And it's not exactly quiet walking. It's not super noisy. It's sandy ground, but lots of dry sticks, and you can only see like 70 yards in most areas or less sometimes. So it was tough. It was tough. We did see a monster, Tara and I did. We busted it. It jumped up, saw us before we saw it. If I had been the hunter, I maybe could have shot it. Maybe. I wouldn't count it as an opportunity for Tara, but it was a big old stag. And as it took off, its antlers hit a tree and bam, about knocked it over. We got in close to it before we busted it, so we were being pretty sneaky. Our guide was awesome. Andy was a stud. Super cool guy. Yeah, we had a lot of fun with Andy. Tara stayed back one evening. She wanted to help the ladies in the kitchen. They didn't want her to help at first, but she wanted to just take a rest, and so she helped them make dinner and got to know the ladies in the kitchen and had a good time with them and left as good friends with them. And she
Yeah.
just had a good time. Cooked armadillo one night. That was crazy. Yeah, yeah, it tasted like roast beef. So that was fun. That was a fun experience.
Armadillo looked like a lobster. Like I couldn't tell what it was at first
Yeah,
over
it
the
did. It
phone.
looked just like a
Picture,
lobster.
picking the meat
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Yeah. Yeah, so that was fun. I wanted to hunt parrots, but the stag hunting was pretty tough, so I never really got an opportunity, but that would have been fun. There weren't a ton of them, but there were enough to hunt and have a good time. Didn't see many doves. I was surprised by that, but it sounds like they're all north of there. What else? The blackbuck. If you go on this hunt, by all means, go hunt blackbuck for one day. Take a day and go hunt them. Super fun. Super, super fun. It's a little bit of a drive from the lodge, and it's on a different ranch. And you just kind of you sneak over hills. It's kind of like hunting antelope in here, sort of. You sneak over hills, and they'll be out there, and then you make it's grassland. Circle around, make a stalk. It's not overly difficult, but that's because there's just so many of them. They're everywhere, and lots of big ones. I think I have it written down. 7 hunters went antelope hunting, and they shot 8 big trophy bucks. So that was, I highly suggest it. Absolutely go hunt antelope if you're on this hunt. Even if you don't want to kill one, go along on the day that they do it. It's just it's fun. And you'll probably end up hunting them if you go along. They're inexpensive. They're fun. It's a nice break from the stag hunting, especially if the stag hunting's slow. Yeah, we had such a good time, and it was a mixed group. My friends, the 2 guys that you booked, and they were friends. Oh, and actually Scott too. You booked him too. He came solo, didn't know anybody. And then Jimmy and Isaac, who the outfitter booked, I should tell you about them. They were on this whirlwind hunting tour. The son was on his gap year from college. They were going to hunt every single continent in one trip. And so they had already gone to Africa, and Isaac was the one hunting. His dad, he was just going along. So there is a father and son world hunting trip. So they just got back from Africa hunting elephants and rhino and a whole bunch of plains game. They had an elephant charge, and the guide ended up shooting that elephant. So they didn't count that. So then they flew from there straight to Argentina. In Argentina, Isaac he got a decent stag, not big. He shot a monster buffalo. He shot a monster blackbuck. And then from there, they flew to Australia. He shot a big water buffalo there, fished for barramundi. And then they went back to Africa because they didn't count the elephant. So he hunted lions and elephant in Africa.
Oh my God.
Got his elephant. I'm not sure on a lion. So he ended up with Big Five, I think, and not really sure from there where they are anymore. But I've been in touch with Jimmy a little bit, and I'll get an update. I actually want to do a podcast with those two when they get done. It'd be quite a story. So they didn't book through us, but very awesome people on a really cool experience. So, but my point with that was our group was awesome. We had a ton of fun. Everybody got along. It was just a super fun experience. Tara got along with the guys. Well, she does, but she was a little nervous being the only woman there, but she fit right in and was teasing the guys, and they're throwing it back at her. It was just a fun group. It was one of the best groups I've ever hunted with.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's hard to have a bad time at that place.
Yeah. It reminds me of Africa in that way. Just it's a little bit laid back and just fun. Even though the hunting was slow, I got to say, the hunting was slow, and that's purely because not a lack of animals. It was purely because the rut just turned off, and that makes it tough. So you have to be prepared for that. If they're not rutting hard or they're not rutting, it's gonna be difficult.
For sure. Yeah. Last year at that time, it was like unbelievable. And one of the reasons I wanted you to go on this week too is because it was the dark of the moon. And that's normally like the time to be there. But I mean, first, second, third, fourth, fifth week of the rut, whatever. I mean, you could have a slow week on any one of those weeks. And, temperature, moon phase.
Just like elk hunting.
I mean, you can try to predict it on paper and say, okay, this week, this moon phase, this should be it. And then you have everything perfect on paper, and it's like, what happened? Well, it's hunting at the end of the day. But everything else made up for it, sounds like.
Well, yeah, from my perspective, absolutely. I mean, Tara didn't get one, but that's hunting. That's especially free range hunting. And if you need to go with that expectation when you're on a free range hunt, it is not there. There are no guarantees.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's high opportunity, but opportunities they're fast, fleeting, and a guy might only have a handful of opportunities in a week. I mean, you're trying to get into it. You'll see fresh sign every single day, but getting on
Right.
one, they're like unicorns. Like they stay. You just never get eyes on them. Like they're always just out of eyesight. So they're magical. I think red stags are just magical creatures.
Or they're special for sure. They are. Yeah, I would go back. I would do it. In fact, that group wants to. Most of them want to rebuck. So we'll go do it again. First, they want to go fishing in Mexico, so we're gonna go on a Mexico fishing trip, and then after that,
Well, glad you guys had a great trip. Yeah. Go there as friends, leave as family. Got some critters, experiences, new country. Check that box, and everyone wants to go back. Can't beat that.
yeah, yeah, it's perfect. It's perfect. In fact, we just had a barbecue this weekend with that whole my friend group. They're all locals around here, and we all got together and had a barbecue and talked about Argentina. So pretty cool. I mean, they were just acquaintances before, and now they're friends.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's cool. And as you can see, it's a great trip for someone to go as a single and jump into the big group and go make friends. And a lot of single hunters that I've sent on this hunt go there as just a single hunter where they don't have a buddy or their wife's going with, whatever. End up making a lot of friends at the lodge, or you can book the whole lodge out yourself. Group of two, group of four, group of 10. I mean, it's just everybody has a place at the lodge. So it's a very welcoming place, contagiously fun. Hunting is normally really good. Sometimes you can have some tough weeks on the stag, especially, but that's why we also, for the free range red stag, we consider the roar to be between March 10 and April 10. Outside of that time period, we do not plan the free range stag hunts really. It's just, it gets too tough outside of that period where success is low. Outside of that, the great time for the buffalo, the blackbuck, the estate stag, any of the other exotics or bird hunting or whatever, but it's pretty tough outside of that. It's either too early and too warm or too late. They're just not talking as much. So only a select amount of spots available per year.
What I what I think turned them off, I think, was the cold weather. Surprisingly, I didn't expect that. I thought it was going to turn it up, and it wasn't super cold for us, but it was cold for there. I think
Gotcha.
that was
Yeah.
surprising.
It's so odd. It's the first week that I was down there, it was quiet the first few days, but it was early. It was like the March 10 through 17th, so the first week. And it just got better every day, but it was like 90 degrees. So I just thought to myself, it's like, it's just too hot. They're not talking yet. They're not talking yet. And then I was talking to hunters that were there at the end of March, beginning of April, and it was still 90, and they were just full blown Jurassic Park roaring. And I was like, you just can't quite put your thumb on the rut. It's just, it happens when it happens.
You just
You have
never know.
good days, bad days. I call it hunting.
That's for sure.
Great trip overall.
Let's talk about you touched on free range fair chase at the beginning, but there is some misconception in Argentina on the size of stags, size of free range stags. So let's talk. Why don't you touch on that a little bit?
It's really good to always touch on that. And that usually comes up in every conversation that I have with our hunters planning Argentina free range stag hunting. Because the misconception about red stag is the trophy size, truly. And what's free range? What is estate? Estate meaning a high fence or born at a facility or captivity and released or whichever, not born in the wild. And a true free range red stag born in the wild, a good representative mature trophy is going to be in that, let's call it 280 to 300 with some occasional exceptional 300-inch plus stags. And for comparison, a red stag in body size is somewhere between a bull elk and a mule deer. Would you agree? And if a bull elk is 650 pounds, a mule deer is 300, a stag's probably 400, 450, somewhere in there. There's going to be some
Yeah,
bigger.
I'd agree with that.
Smaller, somewhere in there. But they carry they carry a frame and antlers equivalent to a North American bull elk. Really, a 280 to 300-inch red stag is extremely impressive. So if you get a good 6x6 or 7x7 mature red stag with some good mass, crown points up top, 6x6, 7x7, pushing 300 inches, that is an impressive stag, truly. That's an impressive 600-700 pound bull elk in North America, 6x6. So
Right,
it's nothing
for
to
sure.
take a stick at. But the misconception is that a big mature stag is 350, 400, 450, 500 plus. The reality is those animals that are that size, 99% of the time have been given a little bit of help, whether it be selective breeding, selective genetics, supplemental feed. Now, there are some exceptions to that. There are just some areas that produce bigger stags. There is that. Realistically, in most cases, call it up to 300 inch on free range, 300 inch plus is some sort of supplemental program. Now, a supplemental program, if it's considered fair chase, but there's no high fence, well, maybe those animals were introduced at a certain point, and maybe there's some animals that are continuing to be introduced and supplemented in the herd for genetics.
And there could be some true wild ones mixed in with them. There probably are.
Absolutely. That's not too uncommon in some areas. Like that's really common in New Zealand, Africa, these places that essentially have management programs, right? There are some places in Argentina that do that too. I don't work with any, but there are some places that do that. But it's important to know the distinguishment between free range, born in the wild, and fair chase, as in no high fence, right? And then there's, of course, estate, high fence, preserve. They all mean the same thing. But that's not really a bad thing either, because what most people don't know also is that 95% plus of hunting in, say, New Zealand or South Africa is technically a high fence, but they are very, very large preserves. And in the case of New Zealand, most people think New Zealand for giant stag because most of the red stag taken in New Zealand are taken from within some kind of a preserve or high fence. And most people don't even realize that because these areas are so big, you never even see the fence. But the reality is, 500 stags aren't growing in the wild. They're just not. And
You're not
that's
going to
just a
turn it
fact.
loose because it's too valuable.
Yes. Yes. And a 500-inch plus stag, that's whether it's New Zealand or Argentina, that's a $20,000 to $30,000 animal. So you're not just cutting them loose and telling them good luck. You're just not. So, so that's the reality people should understand. And that doesn't mean that you're going on a quote unquote canned hunt or guaranteed hunt. It's just within a preserve. So, yeah. And in New Zealand, as well as Africa, they actually have to fence their areas to manage their resource. In Africa, like South Africa, correct me if I'm wrong, but if they don't protect their preserves, then there's nothing managing the resource, protecting them from poachers, government culling. In New Zealand, they have to have a preserve for their animals because otherwise, if they're outside of a designated area, then they are culled by government helicopter culling operations. They don't really have a choice. If they want to manage their resource, then they have to. Necessarily a bad thing. It's just that people need to understand that and know the difference because the last thing we would want, why we're so blunt and transparent about this, is that last thing we would want is somebody to book a trophy red stag hunt in New Zealand and get there and then give us a call and say, hey, there's a fence around this 50,000 acre property. Like, well, yeah, they all are. You didn't know that? But we have the conversation up front, right?
Yep. If you don't want to do that, you go to Argentina. Go to Hungary. Go. There are spots to go. Scotland.
Absolutely. Argentina, Hungary, Scotland. We have options for all those, and we're really excited about each and every one. And there are free range red stag in New Zealand, but they're the same size as Scotland, or maybe a little bigger than Scotland, but they're along that same bloodline there.
They look more like a mule deer, I would say, size wise. Those Scottish stags and antler size too, really.
Yeah, it's pretty rare for them to get that big.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that's just important. We ran into that a little bit with a few guys on the trip. They had in their mind New Zealand stags, and it wasn't because they weren't told. But I think sometimes you just have this picture in your head, and when it doesn't match up, you wonder. So I just think it's super important that people understand fair chase is not free range. It's
Yeah. Exactly. So, and that's also something if someone says, "Hey, I want to shoot a 400-inch stag, let's talk about options." Well, let's talk about options. There's several countries we can send you to, several different types of experiences, areas. Red stag is a huge world. And if someone wants a trophy, non-trophy experience first, wants to experience Hispanic culture, European culture, New Zealand culture, I mean, there's so many different aspects to planning a red stag hunt. It's really
or
endless.
just experience red stag roar. That's a special thing. If you've never heard a stag in person, you are missing out.
Oh, absolutely. Especially when you get a bunch of them roaring all around you. That's pretty cool.
Amazing.
Yeah. It reminds me of like something out of
I don't know
Jurassic.
that it's as amazing as what's
It's almost like something out of Jurassic Park.
yeah, for sure. It's elk are amazing too, but in a different way. And if I had to choose, I'd probably choose elk, but maybe not. They're just so different. You can hardly even compare the two sounds. It's incredible.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I feel like I was terrible in this podcast, not very talkative, but hopefully we got the information out there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, we're kind of knocking the dust off here. And here's some proof.
We're tell us about the podcast that's coming up. You and I are going to do another one soon.
So, touching on that, at the beginning of this podcast, I alluded to that right after I got back from Argentina, I ended up short notice going on a cancellation. That trip ended up turning into one of my top trips of all time. Absolute adventure trip, experience of a lifetime. I went to Kamchatka Peninsula of Russia and hunted brown bears. There was some discussions before I left for Argentina, but I couldn't make a decision because you have to send your passport off to get a Russian visa approved. I didn't want to risk not being able to go to Argentina and host my clients. So I'm not about to ship my passport off before I leave for Argentina. And so just when I got home, pretty much within about 48 hours, everything fell into place. And I made a decision to go on a cancellation brown bear hunt in Russia, of all places. It was a absolute trip of a lifetime, big adventure, long travel. There's so many wonderful aspects of that trip that I want to dive into, but we can't do it on this one.
I haven't even heard the full story yet, so I'm looking forward to it. We're saving it for the podcast.
Yeah. So teaser, and it's like I didn't even tell people I was going because I just didn't want to give anyone any decision making ability. like it's like, wait, you're going to Russia? What? Right now? Like,
Are you
well,
stupid?
next week, but yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So
Awesome.
yeah,
I'm excited for that one.
it was it was incredible. Like I'm still having a hard time finding words for how amazing that trip really was. But we're going to talk about that on the next one. Stay tuned. Also, I want to touch on a couple things that we have going, current events right now. If you're on our mailing list in the last couple weeks, you have seen newsletters about summer fishing trips that are available this year. Those are up in Alaska for the most part. There's some posted opportunities even to go with one of us from the team here. Reach out, talk to our fishing specialist about it, or reach out to any of us. We can help you out if you're interested in going fishing in Alaska this year. Also, I put out some advertisements on Asia hunts like Marco Polo, mid-Asian ibex in places like Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan. There's a lot of really good opportunities over there and at a great value, probably more so than what you think. There's also some hosted opportunities there in the next 2 years to go with a member of us or myself personally. So if you've ever wanted to go to Asia, we have some great partners there. I'm pushing into Asia right now. as well as many other international hunts, as you can tell. So please reach out, talk to us about it. We'd love to help you plan one of those trips. It's such a huge opportunity and a great value going to Asia for hunting. It's really unmatched to anything that we have here in North America as far as game density, quality of hunting, all of it. And it's an amazing cultural experience. It's just a big leap of faith doing one. It's like there's this mystique to Asia and people are afraid to go there, but I've been there, I've done it myself to prove a point. Not a big deal. They're very welcoming and happy to have us there. It would really open your eyes to see it for yourself. And I did
I
too.
agree.
Believed it.
You know what I found one on that, I'm going to touch on that. What I have found from traveling and hunting the world is that the international hunts, I don't want to use the word better. They are, what's the right word, Kyle? They are
Value.
yeah, way more value, way more experience. I don't know. They're just a different experience in North America. And the only word that comes to my mind that's even close is better, but that doesn't quite hit it. You're going to enjoy an international hunt if you go with one of our endorsed outfitters. They're incredible.
Yeah.
Just the service is next level. Maybe that's it. The service from the outfitter is just next level amazing on international trips. Just is.
And as you can see, in the last year, I've been to Kyrgyzstan. Cory has been to Kazakhstan before that. We've both been to Argentina. I just went to Russia. I have on the calendar this year or next to go to Tajikistan. We're also looking at opportunities in Pakistan, hosting client. We're going ahead of our hunters to prove a point here and to go check these areas out. But we have very trusted partners, wonderful trip providers and outfitters that provide world-class experiences that are truly next level. The value of the hunt, what you pay versus what you get. The travel logistics are absolutely seamless. The hospitality, the customer service, and let's not forget the quality of hunting. The game densities in these areas are absolutely unmatched. Like you go on a Kyrgyzstan or Tajikistan Marco Polo sheep hunt for a comparable cost to a North American sheep hunt. North America, you will hunt 10 days looking for your animal, your one legal animal, most likely. You go to these Asia countries, you'll see 50 to 100 plus legal animals a day. I mean, let that sink in for the same cost as a North American sheep hunt. And along with it, you have a cultural experience, seeing a new country, potential to add on additional species like ibex or any number of additional species while you're over there for a sheep. And that's just sheep alone. I mean, and that's only 2 countries. I mean, there's so many countries over there and amazing hunting opportunities. It's just a leap of faith to go. And you just have to know it's going to be a little out of your comfort zone. And people are very welcoming and happy to see you. And they work their butts off to show you a good time. They make sure that you're happy and satisfied with everything all the time. So it's been wonderful, very eye-opening going over there. And keep in mind too,
Yeah, I agree.
if I've ever been afraid to do something, I just tell myself how many people have done this before me and how many people will do it after me. Like before I went to Alaska for the first time, it was this huge mountain to climb to go do a DIY drop camp Alaskan hunt. You know how many people have done that before me? You know how many people do it after me? Like, you can do it. You just have to believe that you just have to take the leap of faith and go do it. And it's incredible. So you'll definitely thank us for going. We'll have to do a whole podcast just on Asia sometime. I mean, they're just.
Yeah, we should. Totally, we should.
Yeah. Wonderful experiences. And then another thing I wanted to touch on here too. So we talked about some of the trips that we've been advertising the last couple of weeks. In the next 2 weeks, what you're going to see from us as well, we have we call them guaranteed tag hunts in Colorado and Idaho, outfitter tags, landowner vouchers. They're guided hunt experiences with a guaranteed tag. So we have some of those advertisements coming out. If you didn't draw a tag this year, if you want to go hunt elk or mule deer in the lower 48 of the United States, we have several opportunities available this year with non-draw tags or guaranteed tags available. So keep an eye out for that. That's usually been a really popular and busy time for us. because we get a lot of interest on those. We have a few spots available for this fall. Idaho, Colorado, everything from private land.
New Mexico too.
We do have New Mexico as well. Yep, those are a moving target. Those go really fast because everyone knows New Mexico, there's no guaranteed draw, and those landowner vouchers are very, very high demand. So those go really fast. They're already going fast. But we'll have private land hunts, backcountry hunts, everything in between, Colorado, Idaho, New Mexico. So if you want to hunt elk or deer this year, give us a call. We'll see if we have something that's a good match for you. So we'd love to help you out, go on a good hunt this year. And then also, sometime in the next couple of weeks, a couple of our junior agents that haven't been on the podcast yet are going to hop on with Cory and do kind of an introduction podcast. Both of them are some of our North American big game hunting consultants that they each have their own specialty. Nick, he does our tags and application services, and he's a Montana elk guide, specializes mostly on North American big game, but he's also well-versed in fishing. Charlie, he's a great dude as well. He's North American big game. He likes to hunt a lot. Personally, archery, so he's kind of branching into rifle personally, but he's mostly an archery guy, but very well-versed in North American big game. And he's also branching into international as well. He's getting into some of the Western Europe.
Excited about Europe.
Yeah. Europe is a whole nother topic of conversation. Western Europe, I mean, between Scotland, Ireland, Greenland, Hungary, England, so many cool opportunities over there to go hunt. Croatia. Yeah, it's a big list, but a lot of great value there
Yeah,
too.
absolutely.
So he's definitely
sure.
been getting a lot about here lately too.
What else? Anything else?
That pretty much covers everything I was hoping to cover today, Cory.
Okay.
How to reach out to us.
I'm gonna. Sorry, Kyle. I just stepped. We had a lag there. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good. How to reach out to us. We have the Outdoor International landline you can call. We have the website where there's a pop-up that you can fill out a message and request additional info or request us to reach out to you. Reach out to us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, or you know what, if you're old school, give us a call personally. I don't mind putting it out there. My cell phone is 319-917. That's my personal cell phone. So give me a call. We're open door communication here. Just reach out to us however you feel comfortable, whether it be website, social media, email, or just give me a call or text. Happy to help you out.
Still makes me nervous when you give out your phone number.
You'd be shocked. So I've been on a ton of podcasts now and a lot of different outdoor industry friends platforms, and I give my cell phone out on every single one, and they'll usually kind of wide-eyed like, wow, good luck with that. And I think people are really shy about communication. Normally, if I go on a podcast and give my cell phone out, usually within 6 months, only a handful of people call me. And I just think people are a little bashful, and that's okay. I would be too. But yeah, just reach out however you feel comfortable. If you want our help planning a trip, we don't bite. We look forward to hearing from you.
Cool. Well, I'm going to touch on a new program that we have that we've been working on for years. And we've been trying to roll this out in a way that was a good value. And we just rolled it out. It's called the OI Insider Program. Basically what it is, it's $8.99 a month. It's a membership, a subscription, $8.99 a month or yearly $99 a year. Just for signing up, we will give you $500 in booking credits. But those booking credits, they match dollar for dollar, and you can use them towards any trip you book through Outdoors International. The catch is you lose those booking credits as soon as you cancel your subscription. So there's that. We'll give you $500. Go sign up today. You have $500. Every month we do a drawing for all the insiders to give away 1,000 booking credits. At any time, you can go to your account page, look at how many credits you have. You can pre-purchase. Say for your birthday, you tell your wife, I want booking credits. You don't know what trip you want to book. She can go in and buy you booking credits for your birthday, and you can build those. There's lots of different ways to build them. There's a grand prize drawing once a year for $20,000 in booking credits. Our first one we gave away last year, her and her husband went on an awesome BC moose hunt. Moose caribou combo. So that's awesome. You get the first chance at canceled trips. You get notified first for cancellations or discounts. You get a coupon every month for $20 in the OI draw. So you double your $8.99. You double your money every month with the free coupon. You get additional discounts in the OI draw. You get a free application strategy with Nick for one state. He'll do the application service for you for one state if you're an OI insider. And there's partner benefits coming on with other partners in the outdoor industry that will be coming on board as we go. So I think the value is there. You get a big bang for your buck. So go sign up.
Awesome. When I sign up, I have to pay Nick full price for my applications.
Yeah, me too. There's a problem with that.
Where I got to talk to the
Is
boss.
what it is, huh? Yeah.
Well,
Anyway, there we go. That's my spiel. If you do sign up, if you have ideas, let us know. The more people who do sign up, the more we can do for the members. So invite your friends, tell them about it. I think what do you think, Kyle? I don't think I've even told you about the Insider program, really. What do you think about that?
I think that's a great value. I would do that.
We're also thinking about this isn't part of it yet, but I would like to know what people think about this. We are thinking about doing a 1% kickback kind of a loyalty program in booking credits when you do book. So we're still trying to figure out how to make that work because we already work on pretty tight margins. Because remember, you pay the same amount with us as you pay through the outfitter.
That would be cool. Yeah, I think it'd be great to ask the audience what do you guys think of that? We'd love some feedback, and we'd love feedback in general on the podcast. We're always about a continuous improvement and trying to make this thing better and be more consistent with it, provide a better product, not only the podcast, but Outdoors International, obviously, and the Insider program, any program we offer.
Yep. All right, Kyle. I'm off my game today. I'm sorry. I'm looking forward to the Russia one. I've just heard just enough from Kyle and seen enough pictures that I am really looking forward to more. So go follow Kyle and Outdoors International on Instagram, and you can get a teaser with some of his pictures. Pretty incredible.
Heck yeah.
So,
well, until then.
All right. Well, I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks, everybody.